Hi, Joy Olson, Blockbuster Fundraising, and I have a question for you. Are you missing anything? Do you have a missing mid-level donor program? Well, today is going to be interesting if you are really trying to get a grip on your mid-level donors and try to understand how to be effectively approaching these mid-level donors. This report that we're talking about today, the Missing Middle Part 2 from Sea Change Strategies, is 2018 information. And look, the people that the nonprofits that they worked with, wow, Best Friends Animal Society, Mercy Corps, the Nature Conservancy, Save the Children, World Wildlife Fund, the Wilderness Society. Wow, 20 of the top nonprofits that are really trying to get a good grip on their mid-level donors. So I thought, ooh, I bet you would love to know what's in this report in terms of highly effective habits that these powerhouse nonprofits have. You know, so many of us are smaller to mid-level nonprofits. There are 1.5 million nonprofits right now in the United States alone. So we all have a lot to learn, and so many of us are small that we don't have a huge staff, but we can still learn from people that have the opportunity to really figure out how to have a wonderful, effective mid-donor program. So, you know, mid-level fundraisers seem to still be uncertain about how much to invest in stewardship. And there are still discussions about the optimal mix of direct marketing and high touch, being personal. So the basis of Sea Change's report, what was really a deep dive into the mid-level programs of these 20 organizations, covering a range of issues from human health to animal welfare to social justice. And fundraisers at each of these organizations completed a lengthy questionnaire. They sat for interviews during which they shared their insights, their breakthroughs, and their challenges. So I just thought this would be a terrific opportunity to learn from them. Like I said, 8 different habits are perfect habits are covered in the Sea Change report, and I'll give you a link to that. But today I thought that I would just share a few, and the first one being content and stewardship. How are these huge, successful nonprofits handling the content and stewardship for their missing middle? Well, the missing middle, the first one in 2014, offered some guidelines for communicating with mid-level donors. And you'll be happy to know that those guidelines remain relevant and bear repeating. The ideal strategy for middle donor content hews closer to major donor than low-dollar direct mail. Cultivation mailings, as opposed to solicitations, predominate. Letters and emails are meaty and substantive. Premiums are almost non-existent. A personal touch is a must. Okay? So that was 2014. That still holds true. But in 2018, Sea Change said that this time around, they took a deeper dive into mid-level stewardship, which is both monumentally important and still a source of heated discussion. The stewardship conundrum is this. When you have 100 major donors, providing for their care and feeding is both cost-effective and relatively straightforward. But when you have several thousand mid-level donors, the logistics and the economics are less clear. And for those of us that are much smaller than this, we still get the picture. Fewer staff, the fewer major gift caseload that we can handle, and we still have so many more mid-level donors. So what can we do? Well, here's what's new in this report. It's not so much that the following strategies in themselves are new. What is new since the launch of Missing Middle 1 in 2014 is that nearly every organization that they spoke to has invested more in their mid-level donor program. And they say that this really may mark the beginning of a new normal. No one's going to totally ignore their mid-level donors anymore. They're going to have a strategy. Number one, they're going to have a clear engagement strategy. While the why people give question has been the subject of innumerable books and blogs, articles, many of the fundraisers that they spoke with for this 2018 report boiled it down to this. And this is a direct quote from one of them. How do we make people feel like we know who they are? I think that's all they really want. Isn't that interesting? When relaunching their program, the World Wildlife Fund embarked upon a large-scale listening campaign to inform their engagement strategy. They listened. You'll want to go into this report, and I'll give you a link to it, to see the power of listening sidebar on page 31, because it's really important. Because here is, and I'll read you the quote again, how do we make people feel like we know who they are? I think that is all that they want, really. Across all organizations that this report studied, they noted 3 stewardship constants: more elaborate gratitude tactics, tailored welcome packages, and regular impact reporting. Beyond those 3, a number of organizations have identified additional strategies aimed at cementing and deepening the donor relationship. These add-on strategies included access to senior staff, a sense of community, experience opportunities, special events, and unsolicited gifts. The most forward-thinking groups have commissioned donor research to identify strategic principles of engagement with their mid-level donors, but most have not. All right, secondly, what did they do? They focus on thank yous. The Wilderness Society is among the gratitude standouts. This is a quote from Andrea O'Brien. We've got a good process in place to thank people immediately and personally in a couple of different ways. And in our hyper-digital, depersonalized world, the gratitude tool of choice increasingly is the good old-fashioned handwritten note. And on page 33 of this report that you'll want to go in and look around yourself, you can read more about it on the cutting edge stewardship. Everything old is new again. Hey, many of these organizations in this report also add a phone call welcome to the process. Though these may be outsourced or handled by volunteers. At the International Rescue Committee, a new mid-level donor is likely to get a phone call from a refugee who benefited directly from the IRC's work. So they say that gratitude is not just a welcome tactic. They've got it in the mantra, you can't thank someone enough. You absolutely cannot. Hey, Kevin Clift at Human Rights Campaign adds a strong personal touch to the exit experience of donors who cycle out of their program. He says, I will write notes to everyone who leaves. These are handwritten notes from me that say, I want to thank them for their contributions and that their contributions have led us to where we are, the successes that we've had, and our ability to fight back. And he says, I hope that we'll give them some opportunity in the future to join us. But until then, I want to make sure that they know we are deeply appreciative of everything they've given us. Nice. Thirdly, welcome packages are a big deal. Building on a prompt and personal thank you, many organizations are revamping their welcome packages to make them meatier and to reinforce the critical role that mid-level donors play in achieving program goals. Typically, these welcome packages emphasize both impact and access. And it's totally normal now for a fundraiser's business card to be placed in the welcome kit. And they say this is a clear message that says, we are accountable for your donor experience. We want donors to feel like they're a part of this exclusive group of leaders who have personal access to the organization. Isn't that inclusive? It's very nice. Fourthly, there is more impact reporting going on with these efficient, successful habits of mid-level donor programs. Regular impact reports to donors are now among the new normal program elements for nearly all of these organizations. Most mid-level fundraisers agree that at this giving level, donors are more interested in making a difference than personal benefits. So many are revamping their welcome packages accordingly. They're modifying it a little. They make it a little warmer, a little less focused on benefits, and more on what the donor's contributions do. Fifthly, many organizations build on solid gratitude and impact reporting strategies with additional touches that are unique to the organization's mission. Says Save the Children Karen Barr. How can we find ways to surprise and delight people? We want to give them as much access as the organization can support. Listen to this. At International Bird Rescue, a new mid-level donor can participate in the release into the wild of a newly rehabbed bird. And at Best Friends Animal Society, mid-level donors are offered VIP tours of the organization's vast animal sanctuary in Utah. Sixthly, listen to this. They are outsourcing stewardship. Many organizations are finding it cost-effective to outsource, in some cases, all of their mid-level donor management. They're using agencies like DSG, THD, and Veritas to provide a range of stewardship services from thank you calls to cultivation touches to making asks in some cases. Well, HRC Clift says he outsources his thank you calling, and he's really happy with the results. But here's what he says. It's an agency call, but it's someone who has been working with us for 4 years. And to our membership, there's no distinction between that person and someone from HRC who is calling just to thank them and welcome them and make sure that if they have any questions that they're answered. So what's not new? That was some of the new stuff they're doing. What's not new? Fewer asks. Another near universal trait of mid-level programs is the emphasis on cultivation communications and the de-emphasis on solicitation. The Wilderness Society's O'Brien describes her communications calendar saying, we've got about 7 different lines or buckets, noting the efforts planned for these donors over the course of the year. Out of those 7 lines, only 2 of them are solicitation lines. The other 5 are stewardship, and in most cases, pure stewardship. It's not the newsletter with a wallet flap or a thank you email with a giant donate button. Secondly, more substance. Substance is one area where mid-level programs tend to look more like major donor communications and less like low-dollar direct mail. Here's how one of the participants describes their approach. This is ACLU. They say, "We have been able to successfully move to that next level. Our mail is no longer just a low-dollar letter that was fancied up for the mid-level. We are able to have a more strategic conversation with these donors." All right, thirdly, what's not new? Uncertainty about stewardship return on investment. Many fundraisers continue to struggle with how much to invest in stewarding mid-level donors. One of the participants summed up the challenge that he and many of his counterparts are facing. The idea, for me at least, is to try to get as close to a major gifts feel as I possibly can with the smallest amount of budget that I can possibly get by with. Or, as Best Friends Animal Society puts it, what we hope to do is to build an infrastructure that creates a transactional relationship that feels very personal. This is an area where traditional direct mail math is less helpful. It's really impossible to measure the return on investment of a single stewardship touch. The donor experience is the product of a well-orchestrated series of touches over a period of time. The inability to access the return on a telephone town hall or a small group gathering makes stewardship tactics a harder sell when budget time comes around. So one of the participants said, "Given my mid-level program and the revenue and the size of my donors, it's hard for me to justify any kind of more boutique concierge kind of program. So I'm caught in the middle there in terms of how, with 5,300 households, do I make it more personal for each of them in a way that is cost efficient and staff efficient?" Good question. At the Environmental Defense Fund, there's a stark difference between treatment for the high-middle catalyst circle, which is 5,000 to 25,000, and the low-middle leadership team, which is 1 to 5,000, because the Catalyst Circle program is a lot smaller. They say, the gift officer says, "I'm at the point where if a new gift comes in, I know it's a new gift because I don't recognize the name. I've gotten to know these donors. I understand their giving pattern. I will have email exchanges with them so they know that I know who they are." And it is that sense that they feel personally valued that is so key. The challenge with the leadership team is that it is now 10,000 people. Woo, wouldn't we love that? It has to be somewhat of a mechanical program, but what are the smart strategies that we can come up with to let people feel more valued? That's a good question for you right now to take note of and to talk to your staff about. What strategies can we come up with to let our people feel more valued? Some organizations are moving away from segmentation based solely on giving levels and are focusing more on behavioral attributes. Then they are allocating their stewardship accordingly. So what's next? This report says that highly personalized donor journeys are next. The holy grail for mid-level fundraisers is a data-driven program that helps fashion unique communication strategies that match the interests, needs, and expectations of every donor. The good news is that arguably, at least, it is working well. All right. Well, this report has so many other great things in it. They talk so much about habit number 6 is that you need patience, because this doesn't happen overnight. The type of relationship that you're working on takes time and nurturing to mature, and measuring your results by immediately revenue in the door alone is certainly not the whole story. So organizations, and you've heard this before, must include retention and lifetime value as key performance indicators. You probably all are aware of Roger Craver. He's a noted middle donor expert, and he emphasizes that organizations will find that low-dollar donors are a significant wellspring for middle donors than major donors, and almost always for planned giving. You must have a long-term view of donors. And the report calls it this cradle to grave attitude. And they say that it is crucial for organizations that are committed to long-term sustainability to think this way. You must be patient, and you must have a plan for building this relationship. So it's an intriguing approach indeed, and different people in this report are seeing promising results. So what's new in this area? More in the patience area, in the building lifetime value, in the cradle to grave. More organizations are focused on retention as a metric. Andrew Wiley with the World Wildlife Fund says, of course we're focused on revenue, but we also look at retention. How many donors who were partners last year are partners this year? So that's so important, retention. And Andrea O'Brien of the Wilderness Society says, we're looking to hit our revenue targets, to see that we're bringing new people onto the file, and that our year-over-year retention rates are holding strong. What's not new in this area, few of these organizations have systematized lifetime value reporting, and the report says that they see this as more of a technology and organizational structure problem versus a strategic problem. Many of these studies participants stress the importance of lifetime value, but tracking this metric over time across organizational silos and databases just really proves difficult. So what's next? Focus on retention, lifetime value. Woo! Okay, I'd love to get into habit number 7 because it's all about listening. And all of these wonderful, successful nonprofits, big nonprofits, say that listening to donors is arguably the most important thing that most organizations almost never do. And Roger Craver says that nearly 20% of all donor defections stem from bad donor service. Moreover, in this rapidly changing philanthropic environment, the only way to know what's on your donor's mind is to ask her again and again and again. Listening to donors is arguably the most important thing that most organizations almost never do. And why is it so important? It's a powerful tool for making your donor feel seen and heard. And it's not expensive. And it provides distant early warning of changing values and attitudes or mounting frustration with some aspect of your organization's work. And it's a source of important ideas about how to communicate most effectively with your donors. And yet the report says that we still often receive pushback when we suggest that our clients invest in structured listening efforts. All right. Well, you've got to get your hands on this great and wonderful report, the Missing Middle 2018. And I think it's wonderful, even if you're a smaller nonprofit, to develop habits that highly effective programs have. And so it's like having a little cheat sheet on how to be absolutely excellent. And that's what we believe here at Blockbuster Fundraising. There, you can improve a little bit each and every day, and it makes such a difference. So we hope to inspire you, bring you the latest and greatest, what everybody's saying in the fundraising field, to make your job easier, to make those goals easier to surpass, to make your life happier. So have a great week. We're happy that you were here today. Remember, we're live every Tuesday, Pacific Daylight Time, on Facebook. And we have over 300 free fundraising video tips on our YouTube channel. I'm sure there's one there from the 2014 Missing Middle program. And I think one about Roger Craver, some of the pithy and wise things that he has said about the mid-level donor programs. Hey, JoyOlsonGroup.com, BlockbusterFundraising.com. Wishing you all the very best, and see you soon again. Thanks for having been here. Bye-bye.